In our today's mathematics class, we are going to look at algorithms for adding and subtracting. In most cases, as we have seen earlier on in our previous lessons, we've been able to add and subtract. But sometimes you'll always find that the basic numerals are large. So when basic numerals are large, then it means that our addition and subtraction will require us to use certain steps. So it is not always practical to solve problems involving addition and subtraction mentally. And that's if we are not able to solve all the problems mentally, then we require to find out how do we handle complex computations. So for complex computations, this will mean that we shall require to involve steps that are going to be used to give us the answer. So when you involve steps as you go about finding an answer, then that process is what we call algorithm. The process of involving steps to help us give us answer, that procedure is called algorithm. Now, for addition algorithm, if two digits, we have the steps that we follow. One, we say if two digits add to more than 9, if two digits add to more than 9, then the higher place value digit in the sum can be carried to the next column. We are looking at addition algorithm. If two digits add to more than 9, then the higher place value digit in the sum can be carried to the next column. But when we look at subtraction, for subtraction algorithm, we shall find that if two digits subtract to be less than 0, then a 1 can be borrowed from the next column. So, addition algorithm, when we are adding any sum that gives us more than 9, we shall carry to the next column. But for subtraction algorithm, if 2 digits subtract to be less than 0, then a 1 can be borrowed from the next column. Now, want to illustrate this, and to do this, we shall look at the following example. Now, we have a question here, and let's find out what digit should be added in the spaces. What digits should be added in the spaces? Take note that we are adding. So looking at the first part, we find that 4 plus dash will give us a 5. And then we find also that dash plus 5 gives us a 2. Now, we are adding. It simply means that already 5 is greater than 2. Then, which means that the number that must have been here should have given us a certain number that is greater than 9, which means there will be 1 which will be carried over to the next column. But for this first part, the first digit in the place value of 1s is less than 5. So to get the missing, we shall take 5 less 4. You'll find what is missing here is a 1. Coming here, we didn't carry anything from here. So what should be added to 12 to give us, to 5 to give us a 2? So number below 5 cannot give us this. So you'll find that it's a number that should give us a number greater than 9. So you'll find that this one is a 7. So 7 plus 5 is 12 carry 1. 12 carry 1. So when you carry 1, then it will be 1 plus 1, which is 2, plus 9, it gives us 11. So this box here, the missing digit is 1. So we have been able to fill the blank spaces by looking at the addition of the digits. You should have also noticed that this time, because we are dealing with a larger numeral, the arrangement is different. We have arranged the digits vertically, maintaining the positions of the place values, each in its own column. Second question, we are to fill the blank spaces, and we are subtracting. We have the first numeral and the second numeral, but the answer is 94. So we should find out which digit gives us this. So we want to find a digit here. When we subtract 4, it gives us a 4. You realize that to go back and get the space, it will be 4 plus 4, which is 8. So the space here that is missing is the digit 8. For the second part here, it is 5 minus a space gives us 9, which means that 9 added to this space should give us 5 carry something, because we still have digits in the place values of hundreds. So you'll realize that the digit that comes here should be a digit that, for us to get this one, 5 must have borrowed from the next column to give us a 9. So you realize that if we are to borrow from the next column, what we borrow is a 1. So if we borrow a 1 from here, this one gives us 15. So 15 minus dash is a 9, which implies that to get this space, it is a 15 minus 9, which will give us the value 6. So 6 is missing. 15 minus 6 is always equal to 9. Now, we borrowed from here. What remained here, which we don't know, minus 1 is a 0. We don't need to write a 0 before the numeral here. What remained to subtract 1 is a 0, which means what remained here is a 1. And we had borrowed 1, which means the digit missing here is a 2. So you'll notice that if we now look at it, 8 minus 4 is 4. 5 minus 6, we need to borrow 1 from the next column. When we borrow 1, it gives us this 15. 15 minus 6 gives us 9. We are remaining with 1 and not 2 because we borrowed. So 1 minus 1 is a 0. We don't need to indicate a 0 here. So our answer is a 4, and in the spaces are the digits shown. Therefore, we can say that algorithm is a procedure involving a number of steps that eventually leads to the answer to the problem. When we talk about algorithm, we are seeing it as a procedure. It is a procedure involving a number of steps that eventually algorithm is a procedure involving a number of steps that eventually leads to the answer to a problem. So I want us to look at additional algorithm. Additional algorithm. We shall require to observe the following steps. Step number 1 that we observe, arrange the numbers vertically. Arrange the numbers vertically so that the digits with similar place values are in the same column. That is the first step. Arrange the numbers so that arrange the numbers vertically so that the digits with similar place values are in the same column, as we shall be seeing. The second step, add the digits in the same column. Add the digits in the same column, starting on the right. add the digits in the same column starting on the right. Step number 3 and last, we say that if the digits add to more than 9, if the digits add to more than 9, then carry the larger digit in the place of the place value. To the next column. So these are the 3 steps we usually observe while carrying out additional algorithm. Now let us look at these procedures as illustrated in problem solving. So take 234 plus 192. That is the problem that we have. Take 234 plus 192. The first step we have been told is arrange these digits vertically so that the digits in the similar place values fall in the same column. So doing that, we shall mean that we shall rearrange and have 234 and then we have 192. We are adding. So you'll notice that 4 and 2 are in the same place value. 3 and 9 same place value of tens. 2 and 1 place value of hundreds. So having done this now, we are ready to start our operation. So the first step now, the next step is now to start adding the digits that fall in the same column but from the right, which implies that we shall first start by 4 plus 2. So you realize that we are looking at the first column here. 4 plus 2, it gives us a 6. Then we move to the second column of tens, where we have 3 plus 9. 3 plus 9 is 11. Now, 11 is greater than 9, which implies that the digit with higher place value will be carried over to the next column. And the digit we have here is a 1. So we shall maintain 1 here. 3 plus 9, is 12. So the digit that we have with the higher place value here is 1, but 2 remains, so we shall maintain 2 here, but we carried 1. So we have 1 that has been carried to the next column. When coming to the third column, we shall remember the 1-digit value that we carried from the previous column, and so we shall say 1 plus 2 plus 1. So this one gives us a 4. So we have 4 here. So we can conclude and say that 234 plus 192 is 426. This can also be proved when you use the calculator. So the procedure here should be followed as by the steps illustrated above. Let us look at subtraction algorithms. In subtraction algorithm, again, there are 3 steps that are observed, just like the other algorithm in addition. So the first step will remain as previous in subtraction, where we said we arrange the numbers vertically. with the digits that fall in the same place value falling in the same column. Step number 2 that we need to observe in subtraction algorithm is subtract digits in the same column top down. Subtract the digits that fall in the same column top down. And then the third and last step of subtraction algorithm is if the digits subtract to less than 0, to less than 0. If the digits subtract to less than 0, we borrow a 1 from the next column. So if the digits we are subtracting is from less than 0, then we borrow a 1 from the next column to the left. Now, let us illustrate this using a problem. Consider the following problem. (259) minus 182. 259 minus 182. Now, look here. From the steps we have been given, we need to know that the first step is very crucial and important of arranging these numerals vertically and each digit falling in the same column of another digit that they are in the same place values. So doing that, we shall have 259, and then the next one is 182. Now, we have arranged it vertically. You'll notice that 9 and 2 fall in the same place value of 1s. 5 and 8 fall in the same place values of 10s. 2 and 1 fall in the same place values of hundreds. So we have been able to handle it the first step. The next step now is start the operation, and we are going to start subtracting the digits of the same column, but starting from the right, and it is top down. So the first step we shall look at is 9 minus 2. First column is 9 minus 2. When you subtract 9 minus 2, what you get is a 7. So 9 was greater, so there was no borrowing, so we maintain a 7 there. The next column we have is a 5 minus 8. 5 minus 8. You'll notice that 5 has less value than 8. This is now what calls for borrowing from the next column on the left. So we shall borrow 1 from 2, which implies that what remains there is a 1. So when you borrow 1 to come here, we shall now have 15 minus 8. So when you subtract 15 minus 8, what you get is 7. Then the next step now is the next column. We have 2 minus 1, but we borrowed 1 and we remained with 1. So you realize that now we are not going to subtract 2 minus 1, but 1 minus 1. So 1 minus 1, which is a 0. You don't need to write a 0 here. 0 before a digit is meaningless. So we shall maintain our answer as 77. Take note of the procedure in the step number 2, where we had to borrow 1 from the next column, and you should always memorize that what has remained after you borrowed a 1. And that's why we did not subtract here 2 minus 1, but instead we used 1 minus 1. These similar problems can be confirmed when you use calculators to check your answers. Now, let us look at the following problems, and we apply both additional algorithm and subtraction algorithm. So we have our question there. We have our question there, 26 plus 66, and question 2, 439 plus 172. So our solution, we shall start by the first question. The first thing is to arrange them vertically. So we shall have 26 and 66. And here we have been asked for the sum, so we are adding. Then the next step, looking at columns again, the first step will be now is 6 plus 6. When we add 6 plus 6, what you get is 12. So for this particular case, we are going to carry 1 to the next column of tens, because the first column is ones. So we have 12, which is greater than 9, so we shall carry 1 to the next column of tens. When you remind yourself about place values, this stands for ones. The second column stands for tens. So when you carry 1 to the next column of tens, it means that now in this column here, we have carried 1. So the next step here, we shall start to say 1, which we carried, plus 2, plus 6. And when you add that, 1 plus 2 plus 6, you get a 9. So the results now comes, this one was 2 because we carried 1, and this one is 9. So you find that your answer is 92. For the second question, $439 plus 172. We need to consider the first step of arranging the digits in a vertical manner. So we shall have 439, 172. Considering the place values of each digit should be in the similar or the same column. So to start working out from the left, we shall take 9 plus 2. You will get 11. And as we did earlier on, this is greater than 9. So the digit 1, we shall carry 1 to the next column of tens. To the next column of tens. So which means 1 comes there. Then next step is 1, which we carried, plus 3 plus 7. 1 plus 3 plus 7. You will get 11. And when you get 11, you'll notice that here it is greater than 9. So again, we shall carry 1 to the next column of hundreds. So the first part, we carried 1 to the next column of tens. Second, we are carrying 1 to the next column of hundreds. So when we carry that again, we have a 1 here. So it will be now 1 plus 4 plus 1, which gives us a 6. So to wind up and get our answer, this was 11 and we carried 1, so this one is 1. This one is again 11, we carried 1, this is 1, then this one is giving us a 6. So we find that our answer is 611. Question 2, give results for each of these differences. -24 minus 15, and B is 3,240. 3,240 minus 2,721. So we have to give the results for each of these differences, 74 minus 15 and 3,240 minus 2,721. Let us start by looking at the first problem. As usual, you arrange the two vertically, so we shall have 74 and 15. And show the sign, it's subtraction. And then we approach it right from the first column, which is 4 minus 5. 4 is less than 5. So we shall borrow 1 from the next column, which is from 7. So at that point here, we are borrowing 1 from 7. We shall remain with 6. So that we have the first step as when 1 is borrowed, it gives us 14 minus 5, 14 minus 5, which is a 9. Take note that we borrowed 1 from the next column. What remains here, we are now going to have 6 minus 1, which gives us 5. And I want us to note that we have used 6 minus 1, not 7. Not 7, because when we borrowed 1 from 7, we remain with 6. That's why we need to note that. So this is what we have. So the first digit is a 9, and this one we have a 5. So you can simply say that 74 minus 15 is 59. For the second piece here, we take it, we rearrange the digits vertically, so we shall have 3,240 and then 2,721. The sign is subtract. Again, now we should be very keen when we are subtracting. From the first column on the right, top down, it is a 0 minus a 1. 0 minus 1, you'll notice that it's not something that can work. So we shall be required to borrow 1 from a 4. Borrow 1 from 4. If you borrow 1 from 4, then it will make this 10 minus 1, which is a 9. So we have 9 here. Now, we borrowed 1. We remained with 3. Which implies that the next step here, we are going to have 3 minus 2. Which gives us 1, but not 4. We have used 3 minus 2 and not 4 because we had already borrowed. So 3 minus 2 gives us a 1. The next step is we have 2 minus 7. Again, 2 is less than 7, which implies that for this particular part, we shall borrow 1 from 3. And when we borrow 1 from 3, then we shall have this one here. We are borrowing 1 from 3. We are remaining with 2. So we are going to have 12 instead of 2. So it will be 12 minus 7. We are going to have 12 minus 7. And this one will give us a 5. So we have 5 here. The last column, we borrowed 1. What remained was 2. So it is 2 minus 2, which is 0. Remember, we have said 2 minus 2, but not 3, because 3 was the initial digit. So we don't need to again to bring 0 before the digit 5 because it is meaningless. So our answer remains 519, and you can use a calculator always to confirm. Therefore, we can conclude by saying 3,240 minus 2,721 gives us 519. In most cases, addition and subtraction can also be used in application questions where we can apply in our daily lives. So I want us to look at this problem. So let us look at this question. Farmer Green owns 287 sheep. Farmer Brown owns 526 sheep. And Farmer Gray owns 1,041 sheep. Question: how many sheep are there in total? How many sheep are there in total? So this is an application question which we can look in our families, and we are able to find the number of sheep farmers own, the number of members in families. So to approach this question, first we need to ask ourselves, when you look here, what are they trying to find out by asking us how many sheep are there in total? You'll notice that this particular case requires us to find the sum of the sheep owned by Farmer Green, Farmer Brown, and Farmer Gray, which implies that in our solution, we shall take what is owned by Farmer Green, which is 287, plus what is owned by Farmer Brown, which is 526, plus what is owned by Farmer Gray, which is 1041. That is what we have. Then, looking at this, these are large numerals where we cannot add them mentally, so we shall require to apply addition algorithm. So in addition algorithm, we shall rearrange these digits according to their place values in the same column. So we shall have 287. This is the same as this, 526. This is 1040. So the place value for 1 is thousands, and then 0 is hundreds, 4 is tens, and 1 is ones. And then we shall put our sign there. So we can start working out the problem now to find the total. As we have seen earlier on, we shall look at each column independently as we add from the right to the left. So the first column is 7 plus 6 plus 1. 7 plus 6 plus 1. 7 plus 6 plus 1, this gives us 14. So we shall have 4, carry 1. When we carry 1, it will be carried to the next column of tens. So we shall have the next is 1, which we carried, then plus 8, plus 2, plus 4. Well, we carried 1, then plus 8, plus 2, plus 4. When you add that, you'll find that this one gives us 15. It's going to give us 15. Again, 15 is greater than 9. We shall have 5. We carry 1 to the next level. So the next level column of hundreds, we shall have 1, which we carried, plus 2, plus 5, plus 0. So you'll find that this one is going to give us an 8, which is less than 9. So we shall maintain 8 here. And the column of thousands, we didn't carry anything, and there is nothing to be added, which falls in the same column. So we shall have 1. So you can simply conclude by saying that total number of sheep owned by the 3 farmers is 1,854. 1,854. That is it for today. In our next class, we shall be looking at multiplication and division algorithm. Thank you.